Matt Pennycook, Labour's Shadow Housing Minister and Labour candidate for Greenwich and Woolwich, is here. I don't think we've chatted before.
Maybe some time ago, I think.
It's good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Let's just start with what on earth is going on with candidates putting bets on when the election might be. One of them, Laura Saunders, we haven't had any further information from the Gambling Commission on her, but what we can say is that she is the candidate for Bristol North West. She's also married to the Director of Campaigns for the Conservatives, Tony Lee. What level of trust has been broken there, do you think?
I think it does seriously chip away at trust and confidence in the government, but in politics more widely. And we've had too much of that over the last 14 years. I sort of hesitate slightly, but this appears with each one of these new allegations to be looking like a pattern of cronyism, if you like, with people benefiting directly, potentially, from information that may have been passed down. I think it's really damaging to politics generally. We've got to have a different way of doing politics with integrity at its heart.
Betraying trust, though. I mean, how would you feel if members of your team you were in the vehicle with or whatever benefited financially, allegedly, from information that they should only have if they were in the circle of trust? I'd
be very angry. I don't think disappointment quite covers it. I'd be very angry that that's taken place. It needs to be looked into, obviously, by the appropriate authorities. But I think the more damaging thing is this sense that under this government there's a pattern perhaps of cronyism. We've seen other incidents over recent years that have really damaged trust in politics more generally in the democratic process. And I think absolutely rightly it needs to be looked into very seriously.
I know you've been on the airwaves a lot this morning, talking about all sorts of things. I wanted to ask you about what your plan is to help renters.
Absolutely, and I think it's important that we do focus on renters as well as those who need genuinely affordable social homes and those who want to buy. There's nearly 11 million renters in this country, not just the young and the mobile, but increasingly older people, children with families. They've been uniquely hit by the cost of living crisis. Most of them extremely financially vulnerable, and they need greater right and protections as a matter of urgency. And they've been completely let down by the government. If you remember, Kay, in their 2019 manifesto, the Conservatives promised a fairer deal for renters. They had promised to abolish Section 21 no-fault evictions. They had 5 years to do that, and they completely let renters down. So we are going to act where the Conservatives have failed. We're going to enact legislation that properly protects renters, that truly, decisively levels the playing field between landlords and tenants and makes renters better off, because renters being held back. We're going to do it as a priority as soon as we possibly can. It's competing with a number of other planning and housing changes that we need to make, but it is absolutely a priority. Because if you recall, we took the bill through Parliament. We took it right to the end, got to the wash-up. We said to the government, we will happily pass this. It's not perfect. We wanted to see it strengthened, but renters are so desperately in need of greater rights and protections. We will see it through. The government failed to take it through.
Other things that are demanding Keir Starmer's time, though, will be plans for the NHS. And the latest figures that we're looking at with the Health Foundation says there's a £38 billion a year shortfall in England. How are you going to fix that?
Well, things are going to be really, really challenging for our public services across the board. That is the consequence of 14 years of Tory economic failure, and in particular, the legacy of Liz Truss's disastrous mini-budget. It is going to be our problem, and it's going to be very challenging. I don't pretend there's any quick answers. But that's specifically why we've outlined a series of first steps and targeted tax rises, not the general misleading tax rises you're hearing about from the Conservatives, but targeted tax rises, particularly closing tax loopholes in a number of areas, to put a quick injection of cash into key public services. That includes the NHS.
Targeted tax rises. Are we going to... Let's do this dance. Is there going to be an increase in council tax?
We're not looking to rebound council tax.
I know you're not looking at it, but might you look at it once you get into power?
I can't preempt what might happen in many years to come, but we have no plans whatsoever to rebound council tax rates. All of the changes in our manifesto, can't be more clear on this, every single one of the policies in our manifesto is fully costed, it's fully funded by those specific tax rises I've outlined.
Which means that it shouldn't go up then?
No, but by those specific taxes I've outlined. So whether it's closing the loophole on VAT on private school fees, ending the non-dom status, looking at what more we can do on tax avoidance. There are the changes we want to make. We do not want to put up plans on working people. There's a risk that council tax...
What does that mean?
It means...
Working people. What does that mean?
It means people who go out to work, and I've had this question this morning from other things, they might have savings, they might not, but it's people who rely on work for their income. primarily. We don't want to put council...
That's not what Keir Starmer said.
Well, he was getting at the very valid point, which is that lots of working people don't have savings anymore. They've run those savings down in the cost of living crisis. They're often relying on debt.
Yeah, so specific working people.
Well, no, not specific. Even working people who've managed to keep some savings, we don't want to put taxes up on those people. We've got no plans to increase taxes on working people. That's why we put a tax lock in the manifesto.
If you say fully funded and fully costed, you say no plan. Why don't you just say, no, we're not going to? Because it's fully funded, fully costed, so no plans to. You can say, actually, no, we're not going to.
And we're not, because we've got no plans in the manifesto to do it. No plans.
But if it's fully funded and fully costed, why don't you say we are not going to?
Well, and the manifesto does not make any commitments in that regard. We've got no plans to increase those taxes. It's not where we want to put our focus. Our focus is on the tax changes we've outlined as part of the manifesto process. They pay for the immediate injection of funds into key public services, including the NHS.
OK, and what are you going to do as far as Andy Brown is concerned? He put out some pro-Russian material online. He says he's been hung out to dry by the party.
Well, he's been, as I understand it, administratively suspended. I think that's the right decision. We've withdrawn our support from a candidate in the middle of a general election. That is quite a...
done that in by-elections before.
Yeah, and we will continue to do so because we demand a better standard from our candidates.
What should Labour voters vote for in his constituency?
I'm not going to tell Labour voters in his constituency what to vote for, but we've
they not vote at all?
Very clearly withdrawn our support for that candidate on the basis of...
Should they not vote at all?
I'm not going to tell anyone not to vote. I want more people to vote K.
So what are they going to vote for then?
That's for the voters of that constituency to decide.
But they've got Labour on the ballot paper. There it is. But you're saying don't vote for him.
Well, we've taken the step we can, which is to withdraw support in the middle of a general election campaign. That's not an easy decision to make, I think, and I hope your viewers will take it as a testament to the seriousness with which a transformed Labour Party under Keir Starmer takes candidate standards and integrity. We're not going to put up with the type of...
It leaves them in an impossible position because you didn't do due diligence.
Well, I think we did due diligence.
Well, how did he slip through the net then?
Well, it's always difficult. And when these things... I think the key test is when these things come to light, how do you respond?
Should come to light before it gets...
And we've responded very decisively.
You learned your lesson from George Galloway in Rochdale because you had to take... you had to remove any opportunity for that candidate to run in the by-election, and as a result, his name was still on the ballot paper. You should have learned your lesson then.
Well, I'm not clear when he liked the particular tweets in question, but I think what your viewers will want to know is, under a transformed Labour Party with Keir Starmer at its head, do we respond decisively to this type of incidents? And I think we have.
OK. Is England going to win tonight?
I certainly hope so.
Are you a football fan?
I'm not the biggest football fan, I'll be quite honest, but I support my local club, Charlton Athletic. I've definitely been watching the England game.
OK, it's good to see you. Thanks for taking the time this morning. Thank you.